So, good afternoon to all of you. Let us start once again. So, in the last session, we began to discuss about Indian Ocean Rim Association, also collectively known as Association for Regional Cooperation or ARC. Clear? So, it was basically an association of countries located in Indian Ocean comprising of 22 member states, and it was established, we had discussed, in 1997. It was basically an important part because India plays an important role in Indian Ocean Rim Association. We had discussed also, clear? So, Indian Ocean Rim Association. Take any map, clear? Last time we took this. Take this one, it was more visible. Okay, so all these countries located in Indian Ocean: Australia, Indonesia, Singapore, Sri Lanka. Then we have Thailand, Myanmar, India, Bangladesh, Pakistan, Iran, UAE. Then we have Oman, Yemen, clear, Somalia, Kenya, all African countries, even Mozambique and all. So all these included under Indian Ocean Rim Association, that is 22 countries together. So obviously all these are very important, and what are we were supposed to start with? The core areas of cooperation. The most important area in this, obviously it's quite visible also, is basically to promote blue economy. Now what do you mean by the concept of blue economy? By the concept of blue economy means sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth as well as for improved livelihoods. Clear? So obviously, since you can see the blue water, clear, normally the most important area of focus is to promote blue economy, that is sustainable use of ocean resources to promote economic development as well as to ensure livelihood for the people associated with this region, at the same time while preserving the ecosystem of oceans. Clear? So ocean ecosystem also needs to be preserved, which is also a major focus of Indian Ocean Rim Association. First is the promotion of blue economy. Another is that this region is also highly prone to disaster. So disaster risk management is another major focus area in this region. Associated with this, another core issue is to maintain proper safety and security in this region, to promote trade and investment, and as well as to ensure fisheries management. All these are core areas of Indian Ocean Rim Association, Association for Regional Cooperation. Clear? Right from here, right, right. This regional grouping has some major core areas. So this regional grouping has some major areas, has some major areas like promotion of blue economy, which means blue economy, which means sustainable use of ocean resources, to promote economic growth and livelihood, along with protection of ocean ecosystem, protection of ocean ecosystem. Say Pakistan is a part because obviously it is Indian Ocean, so Pakistan is included in Indian Ocean Rim Association. Maybe some maps do not include. Let us confirm once again. Just wait. Clear. We'll make it clear. We can make it clarified. We'll have membership also. Just wait. Australia, Bangladesh, India, Iran, Kenya. Pakistan is not there. Okay, fine. Pakistan is not a member. Okay, fine. Because Pakistan is not coming, not even as dialogue partners also. So Pakistan, I think, is not a member. No, Pakistan is not a member. Here it is not Pakistan. Pakistan is not a member. This is a wrong thing, clear? Make it clear, Pakistan is not a member of Indian Ocean Rim Association. No, Pakistan is not a member. Make it clear. So, Pakistan is not a member of Indian Ocean Rim Association. Australia, Singapore, Indonesia, Malaysia, Thailand, Bangladesh, India, Sri Lanka, Seychelles, Comoros, Madagascar, Mauritius, South Africa, Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, Yemen, Oman, UAE, and Iran. Pakistan is not a member. Okay, fine. It's very important to understand. So, Pakistan is not included in Indian Ocean Rim Association. Make it clear. Pakistan is not a member of IORA, clear? Indian Ocean Rim Association. So core priority 1 is the blue economy we had discussed, that is sustainable development, clear? Right, associated with blue economy, another priority area, is fisheries management, Change paragraph, clear? Right, this region is highly vulnerable. To natural calamities, and therefore emphasis is given on disaster risk management, and maritime safety and security. Clear? Right, moreover, emphasis is given on trade and investment, along with tourism and cultural exchange, priority areas. Change paragraph, right? In 2013, India held the chair of IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association. India held the chair of IORA, where the name of the organization was changed. From where the name of the organization was changed from Name of the organization was changed from IORA ARC, Association of Regional Cooperation, IOARC or ARC, to present simply IORA. So now it is simply known as IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association. Clear? Indian Ocean Rim Association. Clear? Right. In 2017, 70, IORA, Indian Ocean Rim Association, IORA convened its summit at Jakarta, Indonesia. Convened its summit at Jakarta and made plan for next 5 years. Plan for next 5 years. 5 years with additional priority on preventing extremism and countering terrorism. Okay, right. This makes this grouping highly relevant for India. This makes the grouping highly relevant for India, which is keen to prevent extremism and terrorism. Clear? Change paragraph. Right. The prospect of India's relationship with Indian Ocean Rim Association is highly positive because Pakistan is not a member of this grouping. Pakistan is not a member of this grouping, so as to place certain restrictions on Pakistan that promotes cross-border terrorism. Okay. Right. Therefore, apart from being economically significant, this grouping is highly strategic in nature. Highly strategic in nature. Now, similar to this, clear, there's another important corridor project in which India is a partner, that also is an important initiative to maintain balance of power in Asian continent. This is known as Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar corridor project. Clear? So we'll discuss about Bangladesh, India, Myanmar corridor project. Clear? So there's another major project that goes on known as BCIM, that is Bangladesh, China, India and Myanmar Corridor Project. Clear? This project was originally advocated in the decade of 1990s by Bangladeshi economist Professor Rahman Shubham, clear, who proposed an economic corridor between India, China via Myanmar and Bangladesh. So between India and China via Myanmar and Bangladesh. Clear? So we'll understand this. Clear? BCIM corridor. Take this one. So BCIM corridor, clear? It starts when Kunming, China, clear? Kunming, Dali, Bausham, Mandale, that is in Myanmar. Then from Myanmar it goes to Imphal, Manipur, Silchar, Sylhet, then Dhaka, Bangladesh, then Jessore and then Kolkata. In between Agartala and Chittagong in Bangladesh. Clear? So it's basically known as Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar corridor. That's between India and China via Myanmar and Bangladesh. So this is Myanmar, Mandale and Bangladesh, that is Chittagong. Okay? So connecting India and China via Myanmar and Bangladesh. This was basically promoted to enhance, basically the idea was given to enhance trade and growth and to contribute to reduce poverty in the region. Highly poverty stricken region, to eliminate poverty in this region. Clear? So at the same time when Shobhan gave this idea, Shobhan's idea saw the material action in the Kunming initiative. This is known as initiative. Kunming initiative, which evolved into a regional forum for BCIM, that is Bangladesh, China, India and Myanmar states. In 2013, a meeting between the then Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and the Chinese Premier led to BCIM economic corridor, which was also known as BCIM EC, that is Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar economic corridor project, that started to gain momentum. So this resulted into Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar corridor. Clear? And there's a major initiative speared by China to reconstruct the Silk Road across Eurasia and Africa. So it's very important to understand right about BCIM. Clear? BCIM, right? Right. BCIM, right? In the last decade, of the 20th century, in the last decade of the 20th century, Bangladeshi economist Professor Rahman Shubham, proposed an economic corridor between India and China, ultimately terminating at Kolkata, between India and China via Myanmar and Bangladesh. Okay? Right. According to Professor Rahman, such corridor would enhance trade and growth, Such corridor would enhance trade and growth and will towards contribute towards reduction of poverty, contribute towards reduction of poverty in the region. Clear? Right. The idea of this economic corridor took a formal shape in 2013, took a final shape in 2013 in form of Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar, Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar economic corridor. Okay, corridor. Right. Next paragraph. Right. This economic corridor is to promote connectivity between South Asia and Southeast Asia along with China. Okay, China. Right. This region has abundant resource. But it is marked by poor connectivity. Clear? Right. The present Indian government under Narendra Modi, has also shown huge interest in this economic corridor project. Economic corridor project. In economic corridor project. Clear? Clear? Right. However, there are some irritants. There are some major irritants. To promote this project. Right. For example, the people in northeastern region, and Myanmar have raised concerns over environmental impact of the project, over environmental impact of the project, clear, subject, right. Moreover, clear, moreover, there is ambiguity, that this corridor, there is ambiguity that this corridor will be promoted for economic growth, or for strategic reasons, geopolitical reasons, for strategic reasons. Clear? Right. Finally, experts are of opinion. That BCIMEC, that is Bangladesh, China, India, Myanmar Economic Corridor, experts are of opinion that BCIMEC project will work in tandem together, TANDEM, will work in tandem with the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, with the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative, crossing Central Asia and the region, will be something to observe in future. How this will collaborate, how this will reconcile, will be something to observe in future. It is not sure. Something to observe in future. Okay? Right. Next paragraph. Right. Therefore, the prospect of this economic corridor, largely depends on maturity of participating countries, especially India and China. BCIM corridor project, Asia and China. Now here only I'll let you know one important thing to understand. Clear? Since we are discussing foreign policy, Agartala is here. In fact, Agartala and Chittagong is connected through link road. Clear? The main route is to be from Kolkata to Kunming in China, Kolkata in India. In between there's a link road connecting Agartala and Chittagong in Bangladesh. Clear? So this is the project. But here again I'll let you know. Clear? Since there are some irritants that is being believed in this project, clear, we need to understand that in contemporary times, clear, a very important doctrine has been highlighted by Prime Minister Narendra Modi, known as Agartala Doctrine. Clear? What is Agartala Doctrine? Any one of you just let me know, because it is largely connected with the province of Bengal. Clear? So what do you mean by Agartala Doctrine? Any one of you? Agartala Doctrine. See, it's very important. Clear? Why it is important? Because we are discussing about the region of Bengal and Bangladesh. Clear? In fact, this is considered to be very important because as of now it is said that some states in India are creating obstacles for India's relationship with neighboring countries. In this case, the most important state highlighted is West Bengal, related to Teesta water project between India and Bangladesh. That is why in course of time our Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given a doctrine known as Agartala Doctrine. According to Agartala Doctrine, India makes it clear that it wants to involve even states in India as stakeholders to decide India's foreign policy with neighboring countries. But in this context, states should act as facilitators to promote relationship with neighboring countries and at the same time to protect its core interests. But it is made clear that states should not act as spoilers for electoral gains to disturb the India's relationship with neighboring countries. So this doctrine is largely directed to West Bengal because Mamata government in West Bengal has raised serious objections to Teesta water project between India and Bangladesh that we will be studying in India with respect to India's relationship with neighboring countries. But in this context, you should know about Agartala doctrine given by the present government, in which even states has been declared to be stakeholders in foreign policy, whereby foreign policy is not the subject of state, but here the major states has been declared to be stakeholders who have contiguous boundaries with neighboring countries. Their core interests to be taken into account for formulating the foreign policy with neighboring countries. But it makes clear states should not act as spoilers for electoral gains in order to disturb India's relationship with neighboring countries. In fact, the factor of state involvement has also emerged to be a major irritant in relationship between India and neighboring countries. Bangladesh is a great example, and just because of West Bengal only, Narendra Modi gave the doctrine known as Agartala doctrine. Clear? So you should know about Agartala doctrine. It's very important. Agartala doctrine is a doctrine whereby the present government believes that even states can be involved in policy making on foreign policy related to neighboring countries. Clear? And at the same time, core interest of the state must not be compromised with while promoting relationship with neighboring countries. But at the same time, states should not act as spoilers to disturb the relationship between India and neighboring countries just because of electoral gains. So obviously it hints at the regime of Mamata government in West Bengal. This is known as the Agartala doctrine of Indian government. Is that clear? Especially for all of you, Agartala doctrine has to be known to you very clearly. Is Agartala doctrine clear to all of you? Since we have discussed about Chittagong and we are discussing about Agartala and then West Bengal, you should know about Agartala doctrine of Narendra Modi, the present Prime Minister of India. Is Agartala doctrine clear to all of you? It's very important for all of you. Please revert back. Okay, fine. So I hope the components of Agartala doctrine is clear to all of you. This is an important project which really demands huge amount of maturity on the part of India and China in order to complete this project for not only strategic but economic development. Clear? Now coming to another major regional organization with which India is connected, and that is Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation or APEC. Clear? We'll discuss about India's interaction and diplomacy in Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. Clear? So we'll discuss about APEC. Clear? So apart from BCIM, now we'll move to APEC. Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. Clear? Clear. Now just understand. Clear? The origin of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation can be traced back to the period of economic integration of Southeast Asia and East Asia. So we had discussed about Southeast and East Asia Summit also. Clear? So it goes back to the origin. It goes back to economic integration between South Asia and East Asia. In 1967, we know ASEAN came into being, and ASEAN states began to develop deep trade with Europe. Clear? In course of time, healthy trade relationship got established between Europe and ASEAN member states. Clear? And thereafter, by the end of 20th century, European Union was formed, and this European Union also wanted to have prominent trade relationship. Clear? And at the same time, clear, this also became important because United States began to promote trade through NAFTA, North American Free Trade Agreement. All such developments resulted into establishment of APEC, that is Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, in 1989, which was formally proposed by Australia, and that resulted into formation of APEC in 1993, and the first APEC summit was held in 1993 and decided to focus upon liberalization and economic trade. The APEC has 21 member economies today, and India wants to join this economic community as it wants to undertake trade promotion within the economies of Asia Pacific region. So we'll come to Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. First of all, we'll look into this region. Asia Pacific Economic Region. 21 member countries. Now, these are 21 member countries of APEC. Clear? So, Russia, then People's Republic of China. India is not a member, but India wants to join the APEC. Japan, then Republic of Korea, Chinese Taipei, Hong Kong, China, all the countries of Southeast Asia, Australia being the original proposer. And then we have Mexico also, United States also, and at the same time, we have Canada as well. Clear? So all these are very, Peru also, Chile also, that is even South American countries. Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation covering the whole Pacific region. Clear? India is not a member because India is not a country of Pacific region. Clear? So obviously, since India is not a member of Pacific region, India is not a member of this major economic organization known as APEC. Clear? Right, first of all, India and APEC. Next, why the name as Agartala Doctrine? It is a name given Agartala Doctrine because Agartala, clear? If you look into this, is a region in northeastern part of India, very close to the region of Bangladesh, clear? And just because it was given at Agartala in order to promote healthy relationship between India and Bangladesh, which was largely obstructed by West Bengal. West Bengal objected to Teesta Water Treaty, and that is since this doctrine was given at Agartala in order to emphasize on Indo-Bangla relationship, the doctrine itself came to be known as Agartala Doctrine. Path. Clear? So, in our new parliament portrait, Akhand Bharat picture that Bangladesh, Pakistan showed they're concerned about it because affects our relation with those countries. Yeah, the issue has been raised recently because in Akhand Bharat picture, there is depiction of India, Bangladesh and Pakistan as parts of Indian subcontinent, and therefore this has raised several question mark and criticism all across the world, especially in neighboring countries. Clear? So, obviously, Akhand Bharat means undivided India. So, if it is undivided India, obviously undivided India, Bangladesh and Pakistan were part of Indian territory. So, Akhand, since the term is Akhand, Akhand means not divided, undivided. So, if unified and undivided India, Pakistan and Bangladesh were parts of India. Sir, can you please explain it one more time? Agartala Doctrine. Agartala Doctrine, I'll let you know. Clear? You want to write also Agartala Doctrine? You want to write also Agartala Doctrine? There are three major components of Agartala Doctrine. Can you explain one more time Agartala Doctrine? Agartala Doctrine has been given by present Prime Minister primarily to boost relationship with neighboring countries with support of concerned states. According to Agartala Doctrine, clear, states in India has been decided to make stakeholders while deciding the foreign policy with neighboring countries. Clear? So, states can express their opinion related to India's relationship with neighboring countries. At the same time, the core interest of the state is not to be compromised. But moreover, states should also not act as spoilers just for electoral fortune to affect India's relationship with neighboring countries. These are major components of Agartala Doctrine. It's clear. It's clear, Vishwajit. I hope it's Vishwajit. Yes, sir. Want to write. Clear? Right. Agartala Doctrine. Right. Agartala Doctrine. Agartala Doctrine. Okay, write introduction first. Clear? Right. The Agartala Doctrine. The Agartala Doctrine. The Agartala Doctrine is the final outcome of policies adopted by successive governments, final outcome of the policies adopted by successive governments in Tripura, Agartala, successive governments in Tripura with respect to East Pakistan or later Bangladesh, with respect to East Pakistan and later Bangladesh. You will understand much better. East Pakistan and later Bangladesh. I'll let you know. Clear? Tripura and Bangladesh. Maps. Look into this map only. Bangladesh and India's north security perspective. Clear? This is seven sister states, northeastern state Arunachal, Nagaland, Manipur, Mizoram, Tripura, Agartala, Shillong, Meghalaya, and this is Bangladesh. Clear? So obviously the most important state of India closely connected with Bangladesh is Tripura with its capital at Agartala. Clear? So since beginning, since India became independent, clear, Tripura, also originally known as Tipera. From Tipera, we have derived the word Tripura. Tripura, there were different policies been formulated to promote relationship with Bangladesh. Ultimately, the filtration of all these policies and postures has resulted into Agartala doctrine. Because why? Because obviously Tripura is the most affected state if Indo-Bangladesh relationship gets affected. That is why since Tripura's stakes is very high, this doctrine has been formulated at Agartala and also named as Agartala Doctrine. So not far away from Bangladesh, clear? And before above Bangladesh, we have West Bengal. So Agartala is largely connected with issues in Bangladesh, and obviously any policy that leads to promotion of relation in Bangladesh is largely having impact on Tripura, and therefore this doctrine is known as Agartala Doctrine. Clear? So Agartala Doctrine because Agartala has large common boundary with Bangladesh. Clear? So obviously Agartala Doctrine is very important to post Indo-Bangla relationship. Okay, right about this doctrine. Clear? So it's clear. Governments vis-a-vis East Pakistan, later Bangladesh. Clear? Next, right, in recent times, the government of India, India has decided to help state governments in safeguarding the interest of their own people. State governments in safeguarding the interest of their own people, but also to work towards strengthening neighborhood policy. Clear? Right. The Agartala doctrine has three components. Right, point wise. Number one, three components. Number one, states should have a greater role. States should have a greater role in foreign policy matters. States should have a greater role in foreign policy matters, involving neighbors, involving neighbors, neighbors, so that their core interests are protected, so that their core interests are protected. Core interests are protected. One. Second, clear? Right. Second, state should act as responsible stakeholders. State should act as responsible stakeholders and not as spoilers, seeking, not as spoilers, seeking narrow domestic electoral gains, seeking narrow domestic electoral gains, electoral gains. Third point, third component, clear? Right, states should take the initiative, to improve relations with neighboring countries, to improve relationship with neighboring countries while keeping in mind the broader national interest, while keeping in mind the broader national interest, national interest, national interest. Clear? Right. Next, next paragraph, the Agartala Doctrine, the Agartala Doctrine, the Agartala Doctrine took a formal shape, during the first Tripura conclave, in Agartala, Tripura conclave in Agartala in 2014, in 2014, in 2014. Right, this doctrine assumes, this doctrine assumes huge importance, this doctrine assumes huge importance. This doctrine assumes huge importance, with respect to India-Bangladesh bilateral relationship. India-Bangladesh bilateral relationship. India-Bangladesh bilateral relationship. Clear? Bilateral relationship. It's fine, clear. So coming to this. So this was one important development to understand. So this project, that is BCIM project, has to be seen in this perspective. Now coming to APEC, clear? So moving to APEC, this region is clear. You all should know, belonging to Kolkata, these all are very sensitive regions for India's security, and Bangladesh being here, clear? Now coming to another important thing, that is APEC. These are the countries. Clear? APEC. Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. Right, heading as Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation. Okay, right. The origin of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, the origin of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation can be traced back to the period of economic integration, of Southeast and East Asia, Southeast, this one, and East Asia, this region, clear, and East Asia, Southeast and East Asia. Right, in 1967, ASEAN was formed, and this regional group began to develop healthy trade with Europe, and even with China, Clear? Right. In fact, economic interaction was the key goal, KEY, was the key goal of the ASEAN states. Clear? Right. Moreover, even United States consolidated green one. United States consolidated the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA. The North American Free Trade Agreement. Clear? Free Trade Agreement. Clear? Agreement. Right. In this context, Australia proposed the idea of Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation, that came into existence in 1989. Okay? Right. The APEC comprising of 21 member states, was promoted to ensure healthy trade, technology transfer, and economic growth. Okay? Right. The first APEC summit was held in 1993. And member states decided to focus upon liberalization and economic trade. Okay? Right. Change paragraph. Right. India is not a member. India is not a member of APEC. Not a member of APEC. India is not a member of APEC. Member of APEC because till 1991, India 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 did not support economic liberalization. Did not support economic liberalization. Clear? Right. However, in recent times, due to economic reforms, in India, several member countries supports India's inclusion, supports India's inclusion in APEC, which is even supported by United States. Right. Currently, India has been given observer status in APEC. Okay. Change paragraph. Right. If India becomes a member of the APEC, comma, it will be perceived as a serious economic power. It will be perceived as a serious economic power in Asia Pacific, and this will help in India's negotiation, at the bilateral free trade agreements, as India has left. It's very important. That is why India wants to join APEC. As India has left, writing capital, India has left regional comprehensive economic partnership. India has left regional comprehensive partnership. Economic partnership, RCEP. India has left regional comprehensive partnership. Clear? Partnership. It's clear. Why India has left RCEP? Any one of you? Why India has left RCEP? Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, and that is why India wants to join APEC, because if India joins APEC, obviously India will be considered to be a serious economic power in Asia Pacific. That will enable India to sign FTAs with other nations, because it has to sign FTAs because India is not a member of RCEP, and India left RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, just because India was prohibited to impose tariff charges. Clear? India wanted to impose tariff tariff charges on imports that crossed a certain threshold limit. Clear? So India was prohibited. India cannot impose tariff charges on those products which exceeded its limit of import. Clear? This is to be understood. Why any country imposes import duty or custom duty? Any country, when it enters into bilateral trade, you must understand the importing country always imposes a tax known as custom duty or import duty, primarily to check the interest of its domestic producers. Because if inflow of commodities from other countries are not checked by collecting custom duty, it will flood the domestic market with foreign goods, and interest of domestic producers of the same community will get affected. That is why every country, to protect the interest of domestic producers, imposes custom duty or the tariff charges. Clear? When India joined RCEP, India began to have comprehensive economic trade relationship with other countries. But India realized that beyond a threshold limit fixed by India with other countries, the import continued to India from other countries, and moreover, India was not allowed to impose tariffs beyond the threshold limit, and that resulted into flooding of Indian market with foreign goods, which could have in the long run could have affected the interest of domestic producers. That is why, since India was prohibited to impose tariffs beyond the threshold limit of the import, India decided to leave RCEP. Since India has left RCEP, Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, it becomes more vital for India to join APEC, because with this APEC only, India will be considered as serious economic player, and that will enable India to sign FTAs. Clear? Right here only. India left the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership. India left the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership to ensure countermeasures mechanism to raise tariffs. Countermeasure mechanism to raise tariffs, TARIFS, tariffs on products, to raise tariffs on products when their imports crossed the threshold limit, when their imports crossed the threshold limit. That is why RCEP, when the imports crossed threshold limit. Clear? So India wants to join APEC. India also wants to join APEC because it will open new manufacturing activities, and that will create huge amount of job opportunities in India. So obviously, for job creation also, India wants to join APEC. And at the same time, the main reason as to why India is not yet a member of APEC is geography, because we had discussed geographically India is not part of the Pacific region, and therefore some APEC members do also have reservation that entry of India can dilute the whole identity of APEC region. Clear? Right. India, next paragraph. India wants to join APEC. India wants to join APEC. APEC to promote its domestic growth. And to create new jobs. Change paragraph. Right. It is to be noted. Clear? It is to be noted that the biggest hurdle for India, in joining APEC, is its geographical location. Clear? Geographical location. Right. India is not a part of the Pacific region. India is not a part of the Pacific region, and therefore, common consensus of member states, is required in favor of India, Clear? India, right? Favor of India, right? The policy makers of India, had started to eliminate trade restrictions, which has been appreciated by APEC members, Clear? Right. Over a period of time. Next sentence. Over a period of time, India might enter the APEC club. India might enter the APEC club. To play a larger role, in Asia Pacific region, APEC, clear? So, all major regional organizations we had discussed. Now, apart from this, there's one more, and that major organization is the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, which is a group or intergovernmental organization of the West Asian countries, which is very important for India, largely to procure energy resources like oil and gas. So, now we'll talk about the Gulf Cooperation Council. So, coming to the Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, clear? Now, in 1981, clear, Gulf Cooperation Council came into existence as an intergovernmental organization among countries like Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. Clear? All these countries came together to establish Gulf Cooperation Council. Clear? This GCC emerged as an alliance of 6 Gulf countries to promote economic interaction. Western scholars believe that GCC is based on foundation of a common security concern, but the scholars of GCC nations says that it is a platform of economic, cultural, and political and scientific integration. Clear? There was a proposal in 2011 to establish a Gulf Union and transform the GCC into a tight economic and military union. Clear? The proposal has met with certain objections from some member states. The GCC has also been initiating a common currency named Khaliji, clear? But the proposal on the same has been slow. India's relationship with GCC have been since 1947. Initially, as mentioned, India's West policy, clear? India has been interacting with Gulf Cooperation Council just because to ensure huge amount of energy supply to meet its energy requirement. Clear? So obviously India has also relied, and another important concern of India is large number of Indian diaspora is there in these countries, and all all these diaspora supply huge amount of remittances to India. In fact, the maximum remittances that come to any state of India is the state of Kerala, and this remittances comes from the Gulf countries, where large number of people are working from India. So obviously India is very keen to ensure the safety and security of Indian diaspora in these countries, and therefore India needs to interact with Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC. Clear? So we'll look into Gulf Cooperation Council. Okay, so coming to Gulf Cooperation countries. Which are those Gulf Cooperation? We'll look into larger map to understand. Gulf Cooperation Council. So Gulf Cooperation Council, clear? Region of Gulf, clear? So Gulf Cooperation, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar, UAE and Oman. This is Gulf of Oman also, clear? So in this region, known as the region of all Gulf countries, has come together, clear? In fact, we'll look into map of West Asia to make it more clear. Look into this. So these regions, clear? Saudi Arabia, this Persian Gulf. So that is known as Gulf Cooperation. This is Persian Gulf, this is Gulf of Oman. This is Strait of Hormuz, clear? Look into this. This is Persian Gulf, this is Gulf of Oman, and around this Gulf region only all the countries have decided to join the Gulf Cooperation Council. That comprises of United Arab Emirates, clear? So United Arab Emirates here, UAE. Then we have Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, we have Saudi Arabia, we have Oman, then at the same time we have Qatar, Oman, Qatar, and Bahrain also, Bahrain here. So all the countries located in Persian Gulf region and at the region located in Gulf of Oman. So Saudi Arabia, then we have Oman, then UAE, then Qatar, then Kuwait, clear? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and Bahrain 6, clear? So 6 countries together, Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, Qatar, Bahrain and Kuwait, clear? All these regions together is part of Gulf Cooperation Council located near the region of Persian Gulf, separated by Gulf of Oman through Strait of Hormuz, clear? So that is Gulf of Cooperation. So it's a Persian Gulf region. Okay, right, introduction first. Gulf Cooperation Council, clear? Right, the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, the Gulf Cooperation Council, GCC, was established in 1981, among 6 Gulf states. This is a Persian Gulf region. Among 6 Gulf states, like Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, United Arab Emirates, UAE, Kuwait, then Bahrain, and then Qatar. Saudi Arabia, Oman, UAE, Kuwait, Bahrain, and Qatar. And Qatar as an intergovernmental as an intergovernmental regional organization regional organization regional organization clear regional organization, right? The leaders of Gulf countries the leaders of Gulf countries the leaders of Gulf countries believe that it is a platform believe that it is a platform for cultural economic cultural political and scientific integration and integration clear, right? Change paragraph, right? In 2011 there was a proposal there was a proposal to establish a Gulf Union. There was a proposal to establish a Gulf Union and transform the GCC, Gulf Cooperation Council, and transform the GCC, into a tight economic and military union. Compact one. Tight economic and military union. Right. However, this proposal was not supported largely. Clear? Right. Moreover, the GCC has also been negotiating a common currency. Negotiating a common currency named Khaliji. Which has not been implemented. Change paragraph. Right. India's relationship with GCC have been on since 1947 under West Asian policy. Clear? West Asian policy. Change paragraph. Clear? Right. India politically supported the GCC. And other states, West Asian states, and other states other states in the region, other states in the region during the Cold War era. During the Cold War era. Clear? Right. By the end of the Cold War, by the end of the Cold War, India's dependence upon energy, India's dependence upon energy from the Gulf region increased. India's dependence upon energy from the Gulf region increased. Clear? Increased. Moreover, large number of Indian people migrated to GCC countries, especially Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, clear, UAE, migrated to GCC countries for better employment opportunities. Clear? Better employment opportunities. Clear? Opportunities. Right. Therefore, India started healthy interaction. India started healthy interaction with the members of GCC. With the members of GCC. Clear? Right, GCC. Right. However, there is one major irritant. There's one major irritant in India's relationship with GCC. Based on India's proximity with based on India's increasing proximity with Iran and Israel. Both are opposed to GCC. Proximity with Iran and Israel. Right. Moreover, Pakistan also plays the Islamic card. To isolate India from GCC. Clear? Right. However, due to mutual dependency, because cheap labor is supplied by India, due to mutual dependency of India and GCC member states, relationship is bound to grow. In coming future. Clear? Coming future. So this was about Global Cooperation Council, Gulf Cooperation Council, clear? Now we have some members, some regional organizations and international organization termed by group of 4, group of 7, group of 20 and even group of 77 also, clear? So we'll come to the group of 4 we had discussed. Group of 4 comprises of India, Japan, India, Japan, Brazil and Germany. This group of 4 countries has come together to demand permanent membership in United Nations Security Council. They are known as Group of 4 or G4. Clear? Beyond G4, we have another group known as G7 as well. Clear? So what do we mean by G7? We'll understand. Clear? G7 is a basically clear. G7 is a group that was formed in the era of Cold War, and in this group G7 that was formed in era of Cold War, the countries that were included was United States, United Kingdom, France, West Germany, because Germany was not unified at the time, West Germany, Italy and Japan. They established group of 6 countries initially, clear? Later on Canada joined and therefore it came to be known as Group 7, clear? So it came to be known as Group 7 when Canada joined the G6, making it to G7. In 1998, Russia too joined transferring to G8, but at the same time we will discuss Russia could not continue with its membership of Group of 8 and later it again got converted to G7. So we'll come to Group of 7 or G7. Clear? Group of 7 or G7. So India and its diplomacy act, Group of 7, clear? Right, groups. It is ideating to G11 also, clear? So group of 7, G7, clear? Look, we'll look into the map also, group G7. G7. Germany 2022. This different one, clear? The group of 7. Clear? Canada, United Kingdom, European Union, Germany, Italy, Japan, France and United States. Clear? 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Clear? Japan. Clear? So coming to group of 7. Clear? So first of all, group of 7 countries. Next question. There's some question. India is an imported country rather than export country, so it is a loss for India. So India left. So India left RCEP. I think India is an imported country rather than export country, so it is loss for India. So India left RCEP. Yeah, obviously India is an importing country, and since India was not allowed to place tariff charges on the imported goods beyond certain threshold limit, India left the RCEP because to protect the interest of domestic producers. Doubts clear? Madhurima Bose, what was GCC's role during Gulf War, as it was almost formed as a military union? See again, I didn't clear. It was projected as a military union, but it was largely, as we had discussed, it was largely declared by experts and leaders that it was economic. It was a platform for economic cooperation, security cooperation, and scientific cooperation. Clear? But the role of GCC during Gulf War was that from 1960 1789, the GCC did not rather remain aloof from the Gulf War between Iran and Iraq. Clear? And just because of this Gulf crisis, that led to Gulf crisis, and in the period of Gulf crisis, the Gulf Cooperation Council did not support either Iran or Iraq. Rather, they adopted a kind of neutral stand in this. Clear? Because obviously in this crisis, even Shia-Sunni conflict was seen, and on Shia-Sunni angle, the Gulf Cooperation Council never wanted to divide. So it was not a very proactive role, rather neutral stand in the Gulf War between Iran and Iraq. At present, Iran is having improved relationship with Saudi Arabia with Chinese interference. Clear? How GCC is responding to this? Obviously, clear. All Gulf Cooperation Councils very cautious about Iran. Clear? Because Iran has established because Iran has improved relationship with Saudi Arabia with Chinese interference, and Saudi Arabia is a part of Gulf Cooperation Council. But then also, clear, other members of Gulf Cooperation Council remains highly suspicious about Iran, because obviously Iran has sided with China, and that can be a great problem for Gulf Cooperation Councils. Clear? But the biggest problem is the biggest power, Saudi Arabia, among Gulf Cooperation Council has joined, has started to develop relationship with Iran. If this relationship develops, obviously the smaller countries of Gulf Cooperation Council like Oman and Bahrain will have to think afresh, because obviously the Gulf Cooperation Council has to think and continue without Iran and without any other country. Saudi Arabia, being the leading player, has to play a more mature role in order to balance Iran on the one hand and the smaller countries of Gulf Cooperation Council on the other hand. It's clear, Madhurima? Clear? Now coming to G7. Clear? Group of 7. Group of 7. So G7, clear? Right? Best, clear? Okay, now let's understand the background of G7. Clear? What was the real background for the establishment of G7 in the era of Cold War only? That comprises of most industrialized nations of the world. So G7 is a group of most industrialized nations of the world. Clear? First of all, clear, what happened was in the decade of 1970s, there was an oil shock in the Western world. There was scarcity of oil all across the Western world in the decade of 1970s. Clear? And just resulted into oil crisis of 1973. And when this oil crisis took place in 1973, all the non-communist states who were tied up with capitalist countries, all the non-communist states witnessed inflation in their economies. Clear? In fact, there was rise in prices of every commodity in the non-communist country, or so-called the countries under capitalist influence. In 1975, therefore, the industrialized and the capitalist countries came together and decided to address ongoing concern in their economies. Clear? In their economies. Clear? And similarly, at the same time, the countries like United States, United Kingdom, France, West Germany at the time. Germany was into East and West Germany. West Germany was under capitalist influence. East Germany was under communist influence. Clear? West Germany, Italy and Japan established a group of 6 countries. Clear? This was in 1975 known as G6. Clear? G6 to address the concern of their economy. Later in 1976, Canada joined this group and it came to be known as G7. In 1998, Russia also joined G7, transforming it to G8. Clear? So at the same time, clear, it should also be noted that European Union is also a non-enumerated member of G8. Clear? So officially to join G8, there is no formal membership criteria. A cursory look at the members' profile suggests that the members are advanced industrialized economies. Clear? So G8 comprises of advanced industrialized countries of the world. Clear? That even included Russia after some time. So write the context first of all. Clear? Right. G7 is a group of 7 most industrialized nations. 7 most industrialized nations of the world. Nations of the world. Nations of the world. Okay? Right. This grouping came into existence. This grouping came to an existence during the era of Cold War. during the era of Cold War due to the oil shock, oil, due to the oil shock which affected the Western countries, which affected the Western countries, affected the Western countries, which affected the Western countries, affected the Western countries. Clear? Right. Due to the oil crisis of 1973, due to the oil crisis of 1973, oil crisis of 1973, the non-communist states, largely the capitalist states, the non-communist states witnessed inflation. The non-communist states witnessed inflation in their economies, inflation in their economies, Right. In order to deal with such inflationary crisis, in order to deal with such inflationary crisis, the industrialized and capitalist countries, came together in 1975, just after the oil shock, in 1975. Clear? Right. The major countries like the United States, comma, United Kingdom, France, West Germany, that was capitalist, West Germany, Italy and Japan, established group of 6 countries or G6, established group of 6 countries or G6, group of 6 countries or G6, clear? Right. In next sentence, in 1976, Canada joined the G6. Canada joined the G6, making it the G7. Clear? Right, next. In 1998, Russia joined the G7, transforming it to G8. Clear? Change paragraph. Clear? Right. One of the most important values, when one of the most important values of G8 countries, one of the most important values of G8 countries countries is that they are believers in democracy, is that they are believers in democracy. Democracy. Right here, very important. Right, in this regard, Russia was exception. It was under dictator, not the properly democracy. In this regard, Russia was an exception. Russia was an exception. Okay? Right. Therefore, when Russia, when Russia advanced against Ukraine, when Russia advanced against Ukraine in 2014, crisis started there only. When Russia advanced against Ukraine in 2014, the G8 countries, suspended Russia from the group. G8 countries suspended Russia from the group. So it was again converted to G7. That is why finally known G7 was clear, suspended from Russia from the group. Clear? From the group. Okay? From the group. Right. Next paragraph. Right. With respect to India, right, India, with respect to India, policymakers demand India's entry into G8, as being the largest functional democracy. Democracy is very important comment. As being the largest functional democracy in the world. Largest functional democracy in the world. Clear? Change paragraph. Clear? Right. During the outbreak of COVID-19, there have been calls for restructuring the world order. There have been calls for restructuring the world order. Restructuring the world order. Right. In this backdrop, the US President made a proposal in 2020. Proposal 2020 of enlarging G7, enlarging the G7 to G11 as the current G7 is outdated. So 4 countries to be added. 4 outdated. Clear? Right. President Trump, US President Trump proposed addition of. That's very important for India. Proposed addition of India, South Korea, Russia, and Australia in the new grouping. Australia in the new grouping. Clear? Right, this proposal, quite obviously, this proposal was openly opposed by China. Openly opposed by China. Opposed by China as an idea, doomed to fail. As an idea doomed to fail. DOOMED. Idea doomed to fail. Clear? Doomed to fail. Right, next paragraph. Right, once established, the G11 would rightly recognize the place of India. The G11 would rightly recognize the place of India. Rightly recognize the place of India. India amongst the richest nations of the world. Among the richest nation of the world. Nation of the world. Clear? Richest nation of the world. Of the world. Richest nation of the world. Clear? Right. In fact, India deserves a right place among the major powers of the world. Among the major powers of the world. Change paragraph. Clear? Right. Moreover, this is very important. Moreover, the US President has also renewed a proposal. The US President has also renewed a proposal of establishing Five Eyes. Establishing Five Eyes along with the G11. Five Eyes along with the G11. Clear? Right, the Five Eyes is frequently used terminology. The Five Eyes is a frequently used terminology. In the intelligence community of the world. In the intelligence community of the world. Intelligence community of the world. And includes an intelligence alliance. Its Five Eyes are basically intelligence alliance. And includes an intelligence alliance of the US, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada. Very important. United States, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, and Canada to decide on a strategy to manage China that suits India's interest. Clear? To decide on strategy to manage China. So G7 is very important, clear? Especially with respect to Russia walking away just because Russia was suspended because of Ukrainian crisis. So it was G8 converted to G7, but Trump has advocated conversion of G7 to G11. That is 4 more countries, in among them India being one of the major country, clear? And at the same time he had decided to reinvigorate the Five Eyes. Along with G11, the Five Eyes are basically intelligence alliance of 5 major countries to check the rise of China, comprising of United States, United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand and Canada. Clear? Very important development at global level. Apart from G7, clear, we have another major grouping known as G77. Clear? G77, will discuss about this and India's diplomacy at G77. Clear? So coming to G77. G77. G77 countries, clear? So, look into this country, G77. Causes of Great Depression. Fine, clear? G77 countries, clear? So all the major countries here, clear? Starting with this region of Oceania, then we have this region of Russia and China, then India, then countries of West Asia, then whole of Africa, and then we have large number of Latin American countries, clear? So G77, clear? So G77 we need to understand, clear? What this is a grouping of 77 countries that came together to establish intergovernmental organization known as G77 in 1977. Clear? G70, clear? It is a platform to collectively promote the economic interest of the global South. Clear? So normally it is an example of South-South cooperation. Why South-South cooperation? There's a term in international politics known as South-South cooperation, that is cooperation among the major developing countries of the world. Clear? So all these countries, that is why Japan is not there. All the developing countries are normally located in towards the southern side of equator. If there's a cooperation among these countries or developing countries, they are known as South-South cooperation, that is towards the southern side of equator. So all these countries are located on the southern side of the world map, and this is cooperation among them is known as South-South cooperation. It is largely among the developing countries of Oceania, Asia, Africa and even Latin American region. So it is known as South-South Cooperation Alliance. Clear? It was promoted in 1961 as a collective alliance in order to promote global South. Clear? The idea was basically to use the platform to promote South-South cooperation. India has one of the major founding members of G77. India has been playing a leadership role in advancing the interest of the developing countries through G77 at the UN also. Clear? In recent times, the G7 have played an important role in climate change negotiation on behalf of developing countries. India, China and G70 have forcefully demanded that developed countries should provide adequate finances to the developing countries to tackle climate change. Clear? India has been negotiating at a climate change level with G77, the like-minded developing countries and the basic group of countries Brazil, South Africa, India and China. Clear? So all these are very important, and therefore G77 example of South-South cooperation. Okay, write the background for us. Right, India and its diplomacy in G77. Write an introduction. Clear? Right, when the first session of writing capital, when the first session of the United Nations Conference, when the first session of United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, UNCTAD, UNCTAD, when the first session of United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, TAD, UNCTAD, Trade and Development, was held in Geneva, in 1967, held in Geneva in 1967, 77 countries came together. 77 countries came together. 77 countries came together to establish an intergovernmental organization called the G77, in the United Nations. G77 in the United Nation. Clear? Right? The idea behind this grouping, was to promote, right in capital, was to promote South-South cooperation, South-South, was to promote South-South cooperation, along with the consolidated Global South, right? Global South in capital. Consolidated Global South. Concept is clear of South-South cooperation, not the developed countries of the first world. It's all developing countries. Clear? Now, question from Vishwajit. So, China is not a part of G7, right? Then why G7 country care Chinese concern about G7? The reason is because of rapid rise of China. It's basically the concern of United States. As we had discussed, no, United States never wanted any country to catch up with its superpower image. Obviously, even though China is the distant second from United States, and United States being a leading member of G7, United States along with the members of G7 wants to manage and to see the rising development in China. So they want to check the growth of China and its hegemonizing tendency, so that the superpower image of United States can be maintained along with the developed image of G7 countries. Clear? Because China is catching very fast with these countries in order to challenge the hegemony of United States. This is the reason. Clear? So, coming clear. So, G77, right? Next paragraph. India is the founding member of G77. India is the founding member of G77 at the United Nations. So after the end of Russia-Ukraine war, Russia can again become part of G7. It depends on the choice of Russia on the one hand, and it depends on the choice of the remaining members of G7. Clear? But it cannot be said. It would be immature to say anything at this time. Clear? Because obviously things are disturbed a lot. Clear? Russia may itself not decide to join G7, and other countries, being democratic countries, obviously may not invite Russia, because that could have affected the major or core values of G7. That is democratic values. So it is not likely that Russia can even join, at least for some time. Maybe after a few years down the line, Russia may join the G7. It's clear? So coming to G77. It's clear? So we'll discuss about the role of India in G77 at the United Nations, especially related to climate change. Clear? From here, we'll continue tomorrow. Clear? So we'll continue from here tomorrow. Clear? We'll discuss about G77. That won't take much time, and then we'll move to more important one, that is G20. Very much in news these days in India because of the summit to be held. So we'll discuss about G20, India and its diplomacy in G20. So all group of organizations will be covered: G7, then G77, and then G20 as well. Clear? After this, we'll go to global organizations like United Nations, World Bank, and IMF, and then we'll discuss about India's European Union and India Africa. It's clear? So we'll continue from here tomorrow. Clear? Thank you.